This is one of the most interesting, creative, and surprisingly colorful movies I've ever seen, and you won't believe what this guy did. The movie opens with a scene in which Bruce Willis, who's playing the character Hartigan, is driving with this super cool car, and he's got a big scar on his forehead. You know, typical ruggedly handsome guy. He's just like me, for real. Apparently he's a cop, but he's retiring after 30 years due to a heart condition. Angina, it's called. He's got a final case he can't let go of though. It's a case involving a young girl, and an EDP-445-like character if you understand what I'm saying. His partner Bob does not think Hartigan is doing the right thing though, because Hartigan is no longer a spring chicken and he has a bum ticker, referring to his heart. Plus, the bad guy in question is the son of a senator, but Hartigan just punches his partner to the point of unconsciousness and continues on. Hartigan tries to make his way to the warehouse where the girl is being held by the monster. He hacks down two of the idiot thugs he meets, but as he tries to continue on his way, his heart begins to switch up on him. He quickly pops some of the pills his doctor gave him for his heart and makes his way to the room where Nancy, the girl, is supposed to be. Upon arrival, Hartigan shoots two of the bodyguards he meets, but the bad guy, Rourke Jr., shoots him in the arm from behind and begins to run out of the building to a dock, Nancy in hand. When he gets there, he shoots Hartigan again, but Hartigan responds with two shots of his own. One completely destroys Rourke's hand, while the other is reserved for his you-know-what. When we all thought that was over, Bob, Hartigan's partner, appears from behind. Apparently he has come too, and so he shoots Hartigan multiple times in the back. After several more shots, Hartigan passes out and Bob walks away. By the time the backups arrive, Nancy's curled up in Hartigan's lap. In the next scene, Hartigan wakes up to find himself in the hospital, but by now the story has completely changed. Everyone now thinks he's the bad guy, thanks to Senator Rourke, who is doing everything to make sure he can get back at Hartigan for hurting his boy. He also warns Hartigan not to tell anybody the truth, or else he'll clap everyone he loves. One day, Nancy comes to the hospital to check on him, but Hartigan tells her it's not safe, and that she can't come to visit him anymore. Nancy agrees but promises to send a note every week, signed Cordelia, so they don't find out that she's been in touch with him, and true to her word, she does for 8 straight years. However, one week he gets no letter, and this happens continuously for about 2 months. Hartigan concludes that Nancy has forgotten him, being an adult now and all. Then one day, a yellow deformed man appears in his cell and knocks him out with a sick punch. When he comes to, he sees an envelope on the floor of his cell. It's the same envelope that Nancy uses to write him, but instead of a letter, when Hartigan opens the letter, he sees a severed finger in it, which he assumes belongs to Nancy. When he sees this, he worries that Rourke and his goons have got to her, so he decides to own up so his charges can be cleared, and he can go and protect Nancy. That's all that mattered to him now. So Hartigan reaches out to Lucille, his parole officer, and he tells her he wants to confess. But Lucille doesn't like his decision, so she smacks him across the face, but they go ahead with the plan anyway. Like Hartigan guessed, they let him go immediately. I guess that's how that works. Guess who's waiting for him outside? His partner Bob, but the yellow deformed guy is also secretly watching them. When they move, the yellow guy follows closely behind. Of course, Hartigan immediately goes to look for Nancy, but when he gets to her apartment, it's all scattered and there are law books everywhere. So at first he thinks Nancy is all nerdy and a bookworm, but then he finds his matchbox from some saloon. It's the only thing that even remotely looks like an address in the room, so though it's a very remote chance he'll find Nancy with that address, he checks it out anyway. At the saloon, he finds that Nancy is now a dancer. So much for nerdy and a bookworm. But then he also realizes something. The finger he received in prison wasn't Nancy's. Rourke was only bluffing, and he'd taken the bait and led the monster and his men right to Nancy. Sure enough, when Hartigan turns around, there's the deformed yellow man. Hartigan tries to make his way out of the saloon quickly so that the yellow man wouldn't figure out that it was Nancy on the stage. But before Hartigan can leave the place, Nancy recognizes him. As if she was bit by a radioactive spider, Nancy jumps down from the stage and immediately lunges into Hartigan's arms and embraces him. Whoa! As they begin to drive away in Nancy's car, the yellow man comes after them in his car, shooting at them. Hartigan instructs Nancy to keep driving and keep the car on the road while he blows off Yellow Man's brains. When they go back to confirm the kill though, they can see Yellow Man's car. They can see his yellow blood spattered everywhere, but Yellow Man is nowhere to be found. And now the cops are coming, so Hartigan and Nancy have to skedaddle. They check into a motel for the night, but unknown to them, Yellow Man had been riding along with them in their car. Level 100 sneak. At the motel room, Nancy opens up to Hartigan about how she's always been in love with him, and the two almost clap before Hartigan comes to his senses. As he tries to take a cold shower, Yellow Man barges into the bathroom and knocks him out cold. He also reveals his identity, and wouldn't you know it, it's Junior Rourke, and he's back for revenge. He begins by dangling Hartigan off the ceiling. He then gives a substance to Nancy, infuriating Hartigan with the ideas of all the things he's going to do to her. A short while later, Junior leaves, and at first Hartigan resigns to fate, but the thought of Nancy being with the yellow demon forces him to fight. Meanwhile, two of Junior's goons get to the motel room to dispose of Hartigan, whom they thought would be dead by now. But when they get to the room, Hartigan has freed himself, and so he knocks him out senseless and threatens one of them to tell him where Junior took Nancy. Hartigan immediately starts heading to the Rourke farm, where Junior's goons had told him Nancy was. Just as Hartigan approaches the farm, his heart starts again, which is confusing because Senator Rourke had promised to fix him. Obviously not because he cared, but because he wanted Hartigan well enough to suffer in jail. Well, now he knows. He's far from cured. Meanwhile, Junior is ruthlessly thrashing Nancy with a whip, but Hartigan had warned Nancy not to scream because apparently that's what Junior needs to clap. What a sadist. Just as Hartigan is about to enter the building where Junior and Nancy are, he gets 2 shots in the back by 2 of Junior's armed bodyguards. It weakens him, but he keeps going. Mans is built different. Junior glances out of his window to see that Hartigan is making his way into the building, so he ties Nancy up and leads her downstairs. When he sees Hartigan, Hartigan pretends like he's too weak to shoot him with his cannon, so he drops to the floor. Junior sees this as an opportunity to off Hartigan, but Hartigan is smarter. As soon as Junior is close enough, he stabs the Yellow Devil in the face and literally bashes his head out of existence after cutting off the idiot's weapon. Use your imagination. With Junior now out of the way, Nancy and Hartigan walk out of the building, but Hartigan bids her farewell, telling her to go on home, while he gathers evidence and makes sure Senator Rourke is put behind bars. Well, at least that's what he tells her just so that she can go on home, because the truth is there's no way he's putting a powerful politician like Rourke behind bars, especially after he clapped the senator's only son and heir. He decides that the only way he can keep Nancy safe is to self-delete, and that's the end of part 1 of the movie. Now we're on to part 2, and it's called The Customer is Always Right. The second part begins with 2 people on the roof having discussion. The guy's in a suit, the woman is in a sparkling red dress with the greenest green eyes you ever saw. The man tells the lady in red that he can tell from her eyes that she's tired of running and that he'd save her. He even tells her he loves her, but then immediately after, he shoots her and she crumbles into his arms dead. He then makes a statement about cashing her check in the morning. I have no clue what just went on, so let's just keep on rolling. In the next scene, we see the guy from the rooftop again, and this time, he's in an elevator when this girl walks in. Her name's Becky, and just like he did with the woman on the roof, he first offers her a cigarette, but the story does not last long after that, as this part of the movie ends abruptly after Becky turns to the man with terror in her eyes. And now we head on to the third part, The Hard Goodbye. This part opens in a bedroom with this guy, whom you can recognize from the saloon where Nancy was working as a dancer. He's in a room with a pretty gold-haired woman called Goldie. Fitting, after they do the Yankee Doodle. This odd Cyclops guy, who was also at Junior's farm where Hartigan went to rescue Nancy, walks into the room. We don't see him do anything in particular, but when the guy from the saloon wakes, Goldie is dead, but strangely, there's no mark on her. The guy from the saloon tries to think and find answers. Was someone after Goldie? Barely minutes after the guy from the saloon finds out Goldie is clapped, he begins to hear sirens. The sound immediately tells him everything he needs to know. Someone is trying to frame him. How else did the police get there so fast? When the police come knocking on his door, he lets them in, but then he beats the living crap out of all of them, before jumping down the stairwell and through a window out of the building. Now on the road, he sees a cop car approaching. He waits until he's close enough to jump into the car legs first. Once inside, he punches the 2 officers in the car and throws them out, and pretty much commandeers the vehicle. He drives the car off a bridge and makes his way through a sewer into the house of his parole officer and friend, Lucille. Remember her? She was also Hartigan's parole officer. On his way, he promises to make Goldie's killer pay for what they had done, vowing that hell would seem like heaven to the murderer after he's through with them. By the way, we find out that the guy from the saloon's name is Marv. Marv tells Lucille in no uncertain terms that he's going after the person that clapped Goldie, but Lucille thinks that's ill-advised as he only just got out of jail. If he's caught this time, it's life. Plus, she thinks Marv might have imagined it all, given his psychological condition. Apparently, it makes him imagine things and throws him into confusion. Lucille's girlfriend, a shrink, gives him pills for it. Leaving Lucille's house, Marv goes over to his mom's to pick up his darling gun. He even has a name for it, Gladys. While still in his bedroom, his mom informs him that the police have been to the house looking for him, but he reassures her. After their conversation, he leaves, heading to his favorite saloon, the same one where Nancy works. Once there, he beats up this guy, called Weevil, and tells him to spread the word that he's lost his crap because of some girl. I guess he's trying to bait Goldie's clapper. Meanwhile in the saloon, we catch this guy who's just sitting off in the corner watching Marv. He's probably going to have his own story in the next part of the movie. Anyway, like Marv probably expected, 2 hitmen come looking for him. Like a perfect gentleman, he follows them outside. Once outside though, the beast shows himself, and Marv knocks one of them unconscious. He then coerces the other one into telling him who sent them. Telly Stern, the hitman, tells Marv. Marv then sends him to heaven and takes his coat to boot. As he walks out of the alley to go find the so-called Telly Stern, he catches a whiff of Goldie's perfume. He attributes that to his hallucinations, but to everyone's surprise, it's actually Goldie, and she's mad and seeking revenge against whom? Shocker, it's against Marv. Apparently Marv did something to her. From there, Marv moves on to meet a certain Louis, whom he dunks into a toilet to tell him the name of those that framed him. Louis tells him it's someone named Connolly, and so he goes to meet this Connolly, who directs him to a Catholic priest. As you'd expect, Marv goes to church for confession, telling the priest all the people he'd clapped, and how he's next in line since he was pointed out by Connolly during his conversation with him. The priest tells him that at the head of the conspiracy is Senator Rourke, but Marv finds it hard to believe that the whole thing is that big. That's what she said. Sure enough, he claps the priest after he gives him the information he needs, and as he steps out of the church, he sees Goldie once again, and she hits him with her car multiple times before pulling out her gun and shooting at him. She then drives off, but Marv is convinced that it couldn't have been Goldie, the woman he loves. Confident that he's imagining things because he hasn't taken his medicine, he pops several into his mouth and then makes his way to Rourke's farm. On the farm, he meets the guard dog who's growling and about ready to tear Marv apart, but he knocks the dog dead, and while he's still on the ground, the guy who clapped Goldie sneaks up on him and hits him. When Marv turns around, the guy tears Marv's face with his sharp, talon-like fingernails, temporarily blinding Marv. The guy then finishes off the job by hitting Marv's head with a hammer, causing the big guy to black out. When Marv comes to, he's in a creepy room with several female heads hanging on the wall. Use your imagination. It's just like some hunters would decorate their walls with the stuffed remains of their kill. When he turns around, he sees Lucille, who tells him that their captor was a cannibal who kills and eats his captives, preserving only his victims' heads like some kind of trophy. In fact, he severed Lucille's hand and forced her to watch as he ate her delicious chicken finger tenders. Her fingers. Soon, Marv finds a way to break them out of their cell by literally tearing out the window bars. When they make their escape, the police land on the farm with their chopper. At first, they go into the woods to hide, but Lucille knocks Marv in his head with a stone. She then picks up his gun, hoping to save them both by turning them into the police. But the words are hardly out of her mouth when the police respond by pumping her body full of bullets. Livid, Marv picks up his axe and hacks all the police officers to death. He's filleting the head of the squad when that one opens up and gives him a name: Patrick Henry Rourke, man of the cloth. As it turns out, Cardinal Patrick Henry Rourke is the brother to Senator Rourke, the father to Junior, the yellow man from the first part of the movie. Apparently, this Cardinal Rourke would have become president, but he chose to serve God. Still, he happens to be the most powerful man in the state, and is even responsible for making his brother senator. Marv is relishing the thought of clapping Cardinal Rourke, but he takes a pause. He wants to be sure that he's about to kill the right person, because he knows his condition and how it makes him confused sometimes. So he takes a trip to the red light district of Sin City, called Old Town, hoping to get some information about Goldie. Sure enough, Goldie shows up and shoots him, before carrying him into a room and tying him up. I guess all the girls came together to carry this guy, because there's no way tiny Goldie is carrying this huge chunk of a guy all on her own. She does throw a mean smack though, as Marv is all tied up, doubting what he's seeing because he's neither eaten nor taken his medicine in days. Goldie reveals that she's in fact Wendy, Goldie's twin sister. Now Wendy seems to be under the impression that Marv clapped her twin sister and 6 other girls. I'm guessing those are the girls whose heads are hanging at the farm. Marv explains the whole situation to Wendy and she believes him. By the way, also in the room is Becky, the girl from the elevator in the second part of the movie. Marv and Wendy share a ride as Marv tells her how it was a certain Kevin that clapped her sister, as ordered by Cardinal Rourke. Wendy reveals that it makes sense because Goldie serviced the clergy. They stop by a store to buy a few materials. They've reached the farm now and Marv sets up, preparing to clap Kevin. After throwing a gas can into the house, Kevin immediately jumps out and both men engage in combat before Marv finally cuffs his target. Just then, Wendy appears with a gun, wanting to clap Kevin herself, but Marv knocks her unconscious. He wants to take his time with Kevin, whom he believes deserves a slow, excruciating, rip-in-peace moment, and he doesn't want Wendy watching so she doesn't get nightmares. Thoughtful. Would it be weird though to say that Kevin in a way looks like Harry Potter? Relatable. Actually, it's Elijah Woods, not Daniel Radcliffe. Anyway, Marv cuts Kevin up in pieces. The scent of spaghetti juice in the air attracts Kevin's own dog. Or is this a wolf? I'm not sure anymore. Anyway, sure enough, the wolf dog appears once he catches a whiff. He starts eating Kevin up, and not in the fun way, but Kevin does not make a sound or even show any sign of fear, not even as Marv finishes him off. After he's done with Kevin, Marv drives Wendy off to Nancy's place, where he also gets cleaned up. Once he's ready to go again, he makes his way to Cardinal Rourke's house with a little present: Kevin's head. Cardinal Rourke reveals Kevin's backstory to Marv, telling him how Kevin had come to him as a tormented boy, and opened up to him about how he felt the touch of God whenever he ate another human being. Rourke even confesses that he joined Kevin to eat the women. As far as he was concerned, no one was going to miss them. Just as he's finishing off Rourke, the police come barging in. They fire rounds after rounds of bullets at him, but he doesn't die. He just passes out. When he comes to, the police beat him to within 1 inch of his life and force him to sign an already completed confession. Marv spits blood on it and continues taunting them until they finally threaten to clap his mom. Having no choice, Marv signs the confession, which frames the clappings of Rourke and Kevin onto him. Of course, Marv is sentenced to forever sleep, and on the night before he's clapped, he gets a visitor. It's Wendy. Wendy spends the night with him and tells Marv that he could call her Goldie. When the day dawns, he's escorted to the chamber and given the chair, bringing us to the end of the third part of the movie. Now we're on to the fourth part, the big fat kill. The scene begins with a couple having a tiff. The girl is Shelly and the boy is Jackie, and apparently he's an abusive SOB. Jackie's at the door begging Shelly to let him back in, or at least begging as far as his pride would let him, but Shelly has another man inside and is no longer interested in seeing Jackie boy anymore. As we see, Jackie isn't exactly trying to make up with his girlfriend. He's brought some boys along with him and he's ready to badly hurt someone. Meanwhile, Shelly's lover encourages Shelly to open the door so he can beat up Jackie and his boys. Finally, Shelly opens the door, letting Jackie and his boys into her apartment. Once there, Jackie orders Shelly to call her friends from the saloon to come and keep his friends company, but Shelly refuses and gets a big fat punch for that. After that, Jackie Boy goes to the toilet to take a leak. Shelly's new lover then shows up from behind and warns Jackie Boy to stay away from Shelly before dunking his head into his own apple juice. Yikes. As it turns out, Dwight is a clapper on the run who got face reconstruction surgery. Anyway, Dwight starts to trail Jackie Boy and his group, knowing that they were going to do something bad that night to another woman, since they couldn't get their chance with Shelly. Jackie Boy makes his way to Old Town, Sin City's red light district. When Dwight arrives at the town, he's informed by Gale, the leader of the town, that the girls have Jackie Boy and his troop under watch, and that they have everything under control. You see, the girls of this town might be the dancers, but they are much more than that. They are so powerful, even the police know they have no jurisdiction in their town. Meanwhile, Jackie Boy is trying to get Becky. Yes, the girl from the elevator. He's trying to get Becky for the night, but Becky keeps teasing him and subtly insulting him. It's all part of the trap though, as the girls have neatly laid out plans to take care of Jackie Boy. Dwight though starts to get a rotten feeling in his stomach, like something's off. While Dwight is still trying to recall what's off about the situation, Jackie Boy makes the biggest mistake of his life. He tries to intimidate Becky into getting into the car by pointing a gun at her. At that, Miho, one of the girls of Old Town who's been on the roof this whole time, waiting for her time to strike, jumps down and claps Jackie Boy and his friends. With the boys now rip in peace, Dwight and the girls lay them flat on the ground and begin to search their bodies. That's when Dwight finds out that Jackie Boy is a cop, and not just any kind of cop. He's a hero cop. Clapping him meant that whatever truce the police had with Old Town was now over. In the past, the police had entered into a truce with the girls of Old Town, allowing them to defend their own turf on their own terms, while the police get a slice of the profits and free entertainment whenever they threw a party. But with what the girls had just done, that truce was over, and the town was now open to their enemies, like the mob who'd make the streets run red with blood, with the police no longer covering Old Town. Dwight gets the idea to go hide the bodies of the men in the pit where he's sure the police wouldn't check, but Gale is convinced that the police will trail him and trace the whole thing back to them. It turns into an argument, and as they continue their exchange of words, it is revealed that Gale and Dwight were a thing once, and they get him a car with a large trunk. However, the trunk isn't quite as large as it should be, so Miho cuts the dead boys up into more manageable bits, and Dwight drives the cut pieces to the pit. While driving down, he gets a hallucination episode where he imagines Jackie Boy is alive and talking to him, but just then a cop starts trailing him from behind. The cop lets him off though, but then he runs out of gas just a quarter mile away from the tar pits, so he starts pushing the car. But while he's doing that, he gets shot by a sniper perched on a statue. Luckily for Dwight, he had Jackie's badge in his pocket, which saved him from the bullet of the mercenary. Unfortunately for him though, his mercenary friends left him a little gift. Soon, the gift explodes, sending his car and himself into the tar pit. Luckily for him, just as he's about to drown, Miho saves him. Miho is here with another girl, Dallas, and they tell Dwight that Gale has been kidnapped by the mob, and Dwight deduces that there's a mole in Old Town. My bet is on Becky because she's been acting sus. Anyway, the plan now is to get Jackie Boy's head before it gets to whoever hired the mercenaries and the whole situation is blown open. They also have to find out who the mole in Old Town is. The trio begins to go after the mercenaries to retrieve Jackie's head. In a shootout that ensues, Dallas dies, leaving Miho and Dwight to go after Jackie's head. They finally get Jackie's head. Meanwhile, Gale is getting interrogated by the mob. Like I guessed, Becky is the mole, and Gale bites off her neck when she finds out. Brutal. Manute, the guy in charge of the mob, gives the order to finish off Becky when an arrow comes flying into the room, piercing through one of the guys. The arrow comes with a note, stating that Dwight was willing to give the mob Jackie's head in exchange for Gale. As expected, the mob takes the deal and receives the head from Dwight, but it turns out to be loaded with an explosive, and although when it blows, it doesn't exactly clap anyone. The members of the mob are dazed for a second after the head explodes. When they recover, they look around to find the girls from Old Town surrounding them and armed to the teeth. Immediately, the girls open fire, slaughtering all the members of the mob with enough bullets to wipe out an entire village. With their enemies rip in peace before them, Gale and Dwight embrace on the rooftop, bringing the final part of the movie and the entire movie itself to an end. Moral of the story? I don't know, but that was awesome.